I am so happy to be here with my friend, Wanda Vitale. Wanda, for the people who don't know you, can you please explain what you do?
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, Shelley. This is so exciting. Um, my work really has centered on helping people understand that they are creating their lives hook, line, and sinker, and that we're here to create these amazing, joyful lives, and that we can be, do, or have anything. And I also work with empaths because we're wired differently. And so while logical thinking, dominant logic people can, I believe, create things a little bit more easily than we do, it's just a little bit different for us because we have that front end trauma. And so there's ways to work with it. But ultimately, I'm here to set people free, to understand that anything can be, and that we can just follow our hearts, and that life can be easy.
I'm interested. You said front end trauma. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Most, about 20% of the population is estimated to be empathic or classified as either highly sensitive, HSPs, or empaths. And I am one. I am one. And we typically, while I believe that everybody experienced trauma as a child, it impacted us differently. There are different kinds of trauma. My version was abandonment. Some people, I have clients who are incest survivors, some clients who experienced horrific emotional and physical abuse. So we all have it. I don't know of anyone who had this amazing childhood, but for us as empaths, it affects us differently. I just saw a study today, actually, that came through where it's a well-grounded study from a neuroscience organization where trauma actually changes our neural patterns. It changes how we experience feelings in our bodies. And I could go into, a big reason of why we do that. But I think for most of us who experience trauma of any kind and who are just highly sensitive, which includes being highly intuitive, I kind of lump the two together. We just think we're different, and we end up saying, well, why doesn't this work for me? Why is it different? Why do I do all this stuff and it doesn't, it doesn't, I don't get those results.
Mhm.
That's what I would say about trauma. We all have it, but it impacts, if you're highly sensitive, it impacts us differently.
Mm. I love that explanation. I've often said that it feels almost like trauma is a prerequisite to the spiritual journey because you're right. I've never met somebody on a spiritual journey yet that had this idyllic childhood. And, I don't know if it's necessary for us to really stay empathic, to stay in our feelings, to really feel. But thank you for that expanded explanation. That's really interesting. So, do you consider yourself to be a channel?
Such a great question. I was thinking, I was thinking this morning about what you might ask me. I would say everyone is a channel. Everyone is a channel. I started channeling or tapping into my ability to channel probably when I was 30. That was 40 years ago. And so then I worked with other what you call entities, never archangels, but I worked with the Great White Brotherhood. I'm just trying to remember who I used to channel. I remembered this morning how I used to do automatic writing, right? And then later I realized I had this heavy galactic imprint. I get information that I have to Google. It's physics, right? Like, what's that? And it's some complicated physics thing. I would say that I have that galactic imprint. So did I channel them? Yes. But ultimately, I would say we're all channels because we're all that is. And we are channeling that higher wisdom, whether we're channeling that higher wisdom, whether it's galactics or angels or whatever perspective of all that is comes through. So, yes, I would consider myself a channel, but not in the way that probably most people would look at you.
Yeah, right. I understand. So let's talk about your awakening. So what brought you to the point where this was going to be your service or your purpose or your contribution to the planet? What precipitated your awakening process?
Um, I started questioning everything when I was a teenager. Pardon me. When I was a teenager, and that would have been in the late 60s. In the late 60s, before I could drive, and my best friend was a year older, we would run off to the nearest city, Dayton, Ohio, to see this old woman who was a psychic, this old cat lady, right? And ask her about our future and ask her questions. I questioned everything. I questioned religion. I considered myself a Buddhist at 20. in and then I worked with sacred geometry. So I'm saying my whole life has really been this constant experience in understanding that there's so much more going on than my outward facing ego could imagine. So I don't really know what my awakening, when that happened, because it's my whole life has been geared for this. I would say that in 2012, so many of us, or it actually started in 2008. In 2008, so many of us hit the wall. Like I went through a divorce. I had married my business partner, and at the time everything was tight. Our business was real estate, and that's when the crash happened. So I had to face myself. I had to face every fear. I mean, every fear. And so I ended up really burning to the ground. I was in an accident because I'm stubborn and I thought I could still make things happen. So I was in a serious accident. So I had no money. And with the accident, couldn't walk, couldn't even sit up for months.
Mm.
That was really my surrender point when I said, okay, literally sitting at my dining room table, I looked upward and said, you win, you win. Whatever I came here to do, you win.
Mm.
And I remember enough of my past lives, other lives, to know that if I ended my life, I would just come back and it would be worse. Because I've experienced a lot of my other timelines that were really not pretty.
Mm.
So, there's a time when, I don't really know what awakening is, Shelley. I think first we awaken and we realize there's a lot more going on. But I think the real, I think awakening is just the beginning, because then we get to this, okay, I got to walk my talk.
Yeah.
And I call it convergence. Some people call it convergence. When we really line up with the rest of us that most people call the soul
Mm.
and say, okay, what are we doing now? What about now? What should I do today? Here, I'm terrified. What now?
Right.
So that's So I think awakening is just, there's so much more after that. And the real freedom for me has come from that time when I had nothing left, no resistance.
Mm,
And I
mhm.
really just had to walk my talk and rely on 100% on the part of me that's non-physical. And
Yeah,
that's where the magic is.
it is. Wouldn't it be great if we could get to that surrender point without having to go through all of the stuff that we need to get there?
I think that's why most of us do what we do. It's why I do what I do, because I don't want anybody to have to get to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So when you get information from spirit, do you have a process for it? Does it just drop in when you're at the grocery store? How does your information come in?
For me personally, it's always there. I don't have to tune in. It comes in, and I think, and my mind will say, well, that's interesting, right? As you know, it feels different. The information that comes in from spirit is just completely different than the mind chatter that we have. So I just wait for it. I wait. For me, it feels like clarity. It feels like information that's interesting, like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Um, and then I also ask. That's the other part, is that people forget, I think, that we can say, hey, I need clarity on this. Right? So we ask, we can use dream time. If we can use dream time, or we can just ask and let it drop in.
Yeah. So when you're doing an event or when well, let's make it an event. Do you ever get nervous?
Um, yeah. Yeah, I do. I mean, I do, because I think we all do. I just talked with one of my coaching clients today, and we all, when we're doing an event, we're doing it from love. We're doing it because we want people to have transformation. And so for me, yeah, there's nervousness that, you know, even though I trust that whatever comes through is perfect, I still look at it like, okay, am I a clear channel? And do I have to get out of the way? I have to get me out of the way. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. What do you tell non-spiritual people when they ask what you do for a living?
Pretty much what I just told you in the beginning. I help people create a life they love without limitations.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing what you do now, what do you think you'd be doing?
I've thought about that, and I will always be doing this. I cannot, because I really thought about this. I can't imagine not doing this. I think we hit a point in our lives when we're here to serve, and our life is about service for people that are ready. So yeah, sometimes my husband will say, when I'm up here working a lot, he'll say, well, you chose that. And because he's semi-retired, right? He'd
Mhm.
like to go play. But yeah, I just cannot imagine a life not feeling filled up from my heart.
Yeah,
And that's what this work does. Even, and I know you're the same way. If we can help one person shift a little bit, there's nothing like it. Or, we don't do the shift, but something happens in them, and suddenly they have a big shift in awareness.
it
It's
makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Yeah.
does. It's because ultimately we want to feel fulfilled. It's not about the stuff. We want a life that feels meaningful and fulfilling, and it's different for everybody. So this is how I do it.
So does that mean that you never see yourself retiring?
I probably,
Yeah.
I don't know what retirement is. My husband has had to look at this since he's semi-retired. He's bored.
Oh, interesting.
He's bored. He's a paraglider, and you can only, we live here in the mountains, and it's winter here now. So you can only go flying so much because of weather.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. But so many people, of our age, so many of them just really can't imagine ever retiring. And I wonder if that's the whole, when you love what you do, you never work a day idea, right?
It is because it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And I cannot think of anything else that I would do regularly where it would feel shallow.
Yes.
It just feels shallow by comparison.
It's
Really?
like trying to go from Technicolor to black and white almost. Like it wouldn't feel as vibrant or as full.
Yeah, yeah. And I know my husband is volunteering and doing things like that. And so that's how he gets his sense of fulfillment and meaning. Though in the kind of work that, say, you do and I do, it's not so much a local audience. I have clients from all over the world because you have to be ready. You have to be ready for this. So, yes, I will likely never retire.
It's fun. Um, so do you feel energy though? I know that you receive information, but do you feel energy? Like, do solar flares affect you and things like that?
Yes, yes, I do. It's one of the reasons that I work with empaths because I am one and had to learn how to manage these feelings. It's easier for some of us than others. I use human design with my coaching. And so human design tells us that some types are more inwardly focused anyway. I belong to the 8% that isn't. So it's easier. It's always been easier for me, kind of, to be in the observer mode, but you have to be aware enough, especially in the beginning, that you're um, to be the observer and not to give meaning to what's happening. Do I feel solar flares? Yes. Headaches lately. I mean, that's how I feel them. I feel headaches. That's about, and then I'm very aware of how things feel in my body. I use my own tools of how we hold emotions in the body, or these flares are actually bringing up, I would say, pockets of things that were just old charges that are in the body. So yes, I'm very aware of that. I have tools that I use with clients that I use with me because all we ever really have to do is acknowledge them, feel them, stay out of story,
Yeah,
right? And just love the heck out of them.
yeah. Do you ever find yourself getting really out of balance? And if you do, what do you do to get back in balance?
Um, for me personally, do I get out of balance? I think uh, last year I got out of balance. I I got focused for a period on doing more than being.
Mm,
For those of us who are logical, I used to be in my corporate life, I was the director of sales for a software company. Give me a project, give me a goal, and I'll push that boulder uphill and make it happen. And even though I teach creation, the tendency is always there to push, to make things happen. And I'm very aware toward the end of last year where I was in that push mode and I ended up getting very ill.
Wow.
very ill in December. It was as if I didn't know it already. So I just stopped. I just stopped and rebalanced. And that this is actually what I teach with my clients. We're in this new way to create. And with these newest waves of energy, the old ways don't work. So if we're in what the world is used to, which is make it happen, push, figure it out, it just backfires on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think getting back into balance was creating more time for yourself, self-care? Like what brought you back into balance from that time?
Um, well, I was so ill. I thought I had, I don't get sick. I just don't get sick. And I was so ill. I was in bed for 2 weeks, almost delirious. And then after that, when I was well enough, I just realized what was causing it. And I just got back to what I want, my vision, because, we either get pushed by pain or pulled by our vision. Got back to my vision and got back into balance of uh, what feels like, what would love do? Not just so yes, took care of me, but also with the action part was just really tuning into my vision is already done. What would love do? And if I didn't feel inspired, I didn't do it. Like I just didn't do it. And this is what we all, I believe, go through, that we think, oh, I should. I should send an email out to my list. It's the first of the year. I should do that. But I wasn't feeling it. For me, it's going back to taking care of me, going to the gym, making sure I have that balance. Really, it's just, Shelley, it's just doing what I teach.
Yeah.
Right. And then realizing that this vision I have will take care of itself. And that when it's time to do something, I'll know. And we do. I'll be inspired, like, oh, that sounds like fun. Like, yeah, I want to do that today.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
So what frustrates you about being human? If
Hmm.
anything, maybe nothing frustrates you, but
Question. Well, that's a great question. So here's I would say, this is when when people talk about being human, my first question is, well, you're not human. We're not human. We're a soul with two
Mhm.
pieces. The unseen part, which is the higher self, and the rest of us is this body. But we're really not even a body. We're energy phasing in and out of form.
Yes.
So I don't really get frustrated because um, part of because we ask for this. We chose to be here. Every bit of it. We create our bodies. We create everything so that we can remember who we really are. We experience lack to create abundance, to know ourselves as abundance. So I would say at this point in my life, I don't really get frustrated. I would say that what amazes me about our journey is that these limiting beliefs we have are rooted so deeply.
Mm.
That is just amazing to me. I have spent my life understanding the nature of reality. In the last 6 months, I'm re-immersed myself in the information that Jane Roberts channeled from Seth in the 70s and 60s and 70s. It was way over my head then. And Seth goes into great detail about the nature of reality and our parallel timelines. And so I am amazed that we come here with such deep forgetfulness.
Yeah.
right? And that these beliefs that we have just don't poof away.
Yeah.
Right? That's what so did I used to get frustrated about that? Because I understand how the big picture, but yet it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop us from getting stuck on these old beliefs that are just old ideas that somebody else fed us.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you consider to be your superpower?
Oh, these are such good questions. I am absolutely clear on the nature of reality and how it's so simple. I am absolutely clear in helping people move beyond limiting beliefs, tap into parallel lives. There's no time. When we drop the belief in time, we have access to so much. We have access to um, probable pasts. So I think that's probable futures. And we get to decide in every moment, what do I want? What would I love? What would I love? So that's what I would say that's my superpower. I have such clarity that I've never had before in how it all works and how to use it for our joy.
It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to use it, I think. Right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so what trait do you most admire in other people?
Authenticity.
Mm, yeah.
I love that you're doing this podcast because there's so many people that kind of set them up to be gurus, and there are no gurus. We're just everybody's just out there sharing a message because life has knocked them over so many times, right?
Yes.
Right. And we've learned from that wisdom and we just want to share it. And that, so I love that authenticity and humility.
Yeah. So what would you like to be remembered for?
Um,
Making you think so hard today. All of these
no,
different.
these are really good questions. I actually had that question posed to me a few days ago. What do you want to be remembered for? And um, so I would say I want to be remembered as someone who helps others be free, free from limits, free from self-judgment, free, just free to follow their joy.
It's a beautiful intention. So, what have you been feeling about 2024? Have you felt into it enough? Are you feeling any traits or themes? I'm interested to know what you think about 2024.
I would agree with a lot of people. This is a year of quickening, uh,
Mm,
right? And that the energy's different this year. I think for so many of us, especially entrepreneurs, because I work with a lot of people who are authors and entrepreneurs materializing their vision. I think these previous years have really been about getting clear, right? Realizing where we get thrown off track, where we're doing that thing that we do, right? Where we go, oh, nope, doing that thing again. And I realize it's different for everybody. Everybody's in a different place with these energies. Um, I think this is a year of us saying, what do I really, really want? I think there's 6 planets in Aquarius right now. I know that I mean I'm not an astrologer, but I know for me it's even after I became so ill in December, I really had to rethink, what do I really want? What do I really want? And where am I putting limits on possibilities? So what I see for this year is we let go again, depending upon where people are, they let go of the, okay, no more doormats, boundaries. I don't want that, whatever. What does my heart really want? And then I think this is the year when the energies are such that it can happen. Right. And I don't know how you feel about that, but that's how I feel that it's being. I can feel that. It just feels like everything's moving so fast right now,
Yeah, I
which,
agree.
which
Yeah.
would be this electric, Aquarian energy. And it's just, we're done with this idea that we have to heal or fix ourselves. Because
Yeah.
there's nothing to heal or fix. We're multidimensional. Our soul, we chose to experience certain things as children. And now we get to choose. We take what we've learned, and that's our gift to the world. So I believe that this year is when we really see traction. I really feel that people are ready for the information that you share, that I share, that everybody else shares, where we've been through the really hard stuff that other people haven't been through yet, right? And it's just a different year. I'm so excited. I believe it's why most of us chose to be on the planet.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. It's a really interesting right now. Who has had the greatest impact on your life?
Hmm. Many people, many people. I really cannot say one person. Um, as I said, I started questioning the nature of reality when I was a teenager. People weren't really talking a lot about it then in the late 60s. I'd probably say Jane Roberts through the Seth material, and I'm one of many. Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, so many people. Mike Dooley, Tut, his
Yeah.
mother said, read Seth. I would say that's probably been one of the major influences, but then, like many people, in the 70s and 80s, I was law of attraction, and before law of attraction, was it Ramtha?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's so long ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I would really, so it's really hard to pinpoint who, if there was just one person. But I would say probably the Seth material.
Yeah. For so many, that was a really big starting point. Really, really valid material way before its time.
Yeah.
Um, what is your favorite reference book? Is there one book that you refer back to?
For what?
Just anything that you want to refer back to. So not a fiction book, but a
Yeah.
reference.
I would probably say one of the Seth books because the material is so detailed. Um, I'm a geek and have a pretty hefty background in quantum physics and psychology as well. And so for me, the material that's in some of those books it's so detailed. I mean, it's mind-boggling for people who aren't ready for it. But I would say any one of the Seth books because it's so detailed,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It just pulls me back into all is well. I can be, do, or have anything, work with the process, right? Work with the tools.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
What have you found to be most challenging about your journey this time around?
Oh gosh, you're going to make me cry. I would say when I considered suicide.
Oh, okay. I'm so glad you didn't do that.
Yeah.
So glad.
Yeah, but it was the best thing ever. It was the worst thing ever and the best thing ever. I was in my mid 50s, and which logic has ruled our thinking for centuries, didn't always used to be this way, but especially with science, we've become very logical. So we discount the rest of us that's non-physical. And so when I looked at my situation logically, I couldn't walk. I had a full leg brace on. I had no money. I had no nothing. And it just seemed impossible. But that's, of course, my teaching. Nothing is impossible. So that was the worst time. And that's actually, again, why I teach what I do, because I've had to do it. Put one foot in front of the other. Check in. What are we doing today? I would get up every morning and say, what are we doing today? I would hear, they literally told me, because I had so much fear then. I don't have fear anymore, but I had so much fear then. And my guides said, you've got to give us, they likened it to clutching a big basketball in my, my solar plexus. And they said, you've got to give us the ball, because as long as you're hanging on to it, nothing can happen.
Mhm.
So sometimes 60 times a minute, I would find myself in the how am I going to do this? What am I, the worry. And I'd hear, give us the ball. So I'd literally, like physically, give them the ball, and I would feel relaxed. And then the ideas came in, or an orchestration would happen.
Right.
So that was the toughest time in my life, because it just looked like there is no way this is going to turn out well.
Yeah. If you had to do it all over again, would you?
Absolutely.
I love that. And so if there's anyone listening to this who's feeling bleak and, look at what happens when you choose to stay,
Yeah.
right? There's so much on the other side of that. So, what is your favorite affirmation if you have one?
Yeah, I have one. I am source and there is no other.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I am source and there is no other. Most
Beautiful.
of our fear is because we think there's some other creative power. There isn't, right? There's no other creative power. And so when we just embody that I am source, we don't have to think, we don't have to get out there in the messy middle conditions. We don't have to go, oh my God, I got to think a better thought. Just like it's all gone. I am source, experiencing all perspectives. And there's only fulfillment as source. There's no not unfulfillment. There's only fulfillment. So that's my mantra. I am source and there is no other.
Love it. What do you wish people understood better about you?
About me,
Yeah.
that if I can do it, if I can do it in my middle 50s, when everything in our society and life says it's not possible, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Anybody can create anything. Anybody, we're here. So that's what I would say. If I can do this in my mid 50s with so much stacked up against me, that with a little bit of leaning into what we love, right? Rather than focusing on what's wrong and how we think we're imperfect, they're the, people, everybody is a walking, talking miracle.
Yeah. I know that you have a lot of wonderful programs. So what is your creative process? How does a program how does it birth for you?
Perfect, really good question. I actually sit down and say, who is this for? So since everything is created twice and everything is energy, 80% is mindset or energy, only 20% is actually action. So I'm in this process right now. I'm actually sitting down, tuning into, channeling. Who is this for? What are their big challenges? What do they understand? What do they not understand? What are they hungry for? How can I serve them?
Mm.
That's actually where I start, and then the process, and then it just flows. This in creation, especially as an entrepreneur, there's so many spiritual entrepreneurs. You just got to get in your heart, and you got to tune into your audience. And
Mm.
then from there, everything just rolls in. It's so easy.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a pet peeve?
Hmm. I don't know that I'd call it a pet peeve. People are where they are, and it's all perfect. I just wish people would take responsibility for their lives
Mhm.
and realize there's no them, they, them,
Yeah.
that we're movie projectors, and that we're making it all up, and we can make up anything, but nothing really changes until we say, wait a minute, it's all me.
Yeah. Where do you think Atlantis is? I know I'm jumping all over the place.
Oh, where do I think it is?
Hmm.
You mean geographically, or however I want to answer that?
Hmm.
Well, there is no time. So here's how I would answer that. I think many of us are back, have parallel lives in Atlantis, and we're back with these Aquarian technologies. Um, I don't really know where it is geographically. I mean, we've all read the things, but I don't think that's the important thing. I think we're back. If Atlantis had never fallen, we're encoded with these light technologies that look like healing, that look like ideas, that revolutionize the way the world is doing certain things. Um, so I think Atlantis is right here, right now, because it is in a parallel timeline, right? And we have access to that. Does that make sense?
Oh, it's a great answer. Thank you. No judgment. Who is your favorite archangel, if you have one?
Oh, well, you have helped me with Gabriel being my favorite one, because Gabriel's so wise and so loving.
He's
I'd
so
seen it. Yeah, being a galactic for years, for 20 years, I thought, oh, angels aren't real. I thought, I thought angels were really galactics pretending to be angels, uh, until I saw one, right? Until I saw one. And then I saw these big, and I saw these big wings. This angel was sitting behind this woman. I was at a class or something. And I looked and I thought, nah, I'm making that up. It's my mind. I looked again and no, it was there. So they are not galactics. Sometimes they can be, but I would say Gabriel.
oh,
So since I went through this whole thing of no more fear and realizing fear's just like a bully who's powerless. I don't really, a lot of people call on Archangel Michael for protection,
mhm.
but we don't need to be protected. We are source. We're it. So I would say Gabriel.
Nice. What would you do if I gave you $1 million?
Oh, this is perfect. Yeah. There's lots of things that I would do with it. I would spend it on me, and yeah, and then I would see what's left. I'm
I
actually
love
planning.
this answer.
I've done several groups or courses on abundance. And I believe that money is one of these last paradigms that we're here to shift. right? After the Piscean age of suffering and sacrifice, we're here to realize that money's just another form of love that really wants to love us. And that I get this all the time. Well, is it okay to have money? Dean Graziosi's line, which I love, is people who think money is bad haven't given enough away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we have this idea that it's somehow wrong to spend it for us, right? But we can. I mean, aren't we here to show I believe that we're here to show other people that money is like air. It just comes in. And we can spend it on ourselves or we can give it away. It's like breathing in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
That it is not selfish to spend it on yourself. So many people believe that it is. It's not at all.
I don't want this show to ever be about me, but this is just gold that Gabriel just dropped in that I want to share. He's saying money is how we experience alchemy, because
Mm,
the combination of us and money can become whatever magic we want to create. Oh, that's so nice. What a nice thought.
that is beautiful. And
So,
it's true. It's just so true. It takes money. Money helps us have more impact,
yes. Yeah.
right? So I look at even income, not for the sake of just dollars, but to me, money for my work is impact. How much impact am I making?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what Gabriel said.
Yeah. It's a really nice, like he's talked to me before about it being like a tool that spirit created to serve us better, like magic tokens that we can turn into anything we want, because it became inconvenient to carry chickens everywhere. In the old days, you pay with a chicken. They're hard to put in your pocket. He laughs and says, it's just a nice light way of looking at it. um what do you think is the most important theme that is up in the collective right now?
Power.
Yeah.
As I look at these Aquarian themes, and it's power. Who has it? Who doesn't? We're seeing it. Governments, we're seeing out there top, organizations. But I believe, but then we're also seeing it in ourselves where we're having to say, wait, remember that life isn't happening to us, it's happening through us. And it's time for us to take back our power.
Oh, yes.
However that looks, not everybody is an activist. It may be deciding to leave a marriage. It may be deciding to follow your heart's calling, to jump off that cliff and do what you've always wanted to do. I mean, it just takes remembering our power takes so many forms, but I think that's the biggest theme.
Yeah. Awesome. What's at the top of your bucket list?
Oh my goodness. The top. Um, I'd love to go to Turkey after COVID, after everything, after the world changed, my life changed. I was doing international retreats that I so love. And I just saw something last night and I thought, oh my God, I would love to go to Turkey and organize something. So that's probably the top, though my husband and I are looking at these there's a thing in Minnesota called a scamp. It's like those little, not an Airstream, but those little trailers.
Oh, yeah.
Pardon me. And just be nomads for a
Oh,
while.
that'd be lovely too. Just go wherever you want to go. That'd be great. If you had the opportunity to address a group of first graders, what would your message be for them?
Mm. Don't let anybody tell you that some things aren't possible.
Mm.
Follow your joy. First graders, still remember. And today's first graders are really wise little children, right? They know. But that's what I would tell a first grader, that, yeah, don't let anybody tell you that something's not possible, and remember that everything is magic. You are the magic.
What makes you laugh?
Just about everything. I think our lives are pretty ridiculous. I think I make me laugh when I'm of some of the thoughts that I think still after all these years of being on this path. I think I can be pretty ridiculous sometimes. So I would say me, and just, humor. We just things that are funny for me on little clips that I see of that I regularly tune into on BBC. That's what I would say. We forget that we're here to laugh,
We do.
right? I laugh at my cat, who just has these two trained humans. That's
We talk about power. Look at your cat.
exactly. Our cat has two perfectly trained humans who just snap to every time she communicates, right? Like, let me out, put me on top of the fireplace.
All right, last question. What message would you like to leave people with today?
This is the time to really tune into your heart. I believe that the only valid question we can ever ask is, what would I love? What would I really love? And stay out of the how, because it's not our job, but really sink into, what would I really love to experience? And it could be something that could seem trivial, like it could just be a new house. It could be anything, but don't discount it, because it's part of your soul, part of the rest of you saying, hey, what about this? What about this? This would be fun. That's what I would say. What would I love? And really let whatever comes be the thing that you claim, because that's really all we have to do is claim it. Say it's, and then it's done. And then the path shows up.
Awesome. If people are listening to you today and want to know more about what you do, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, which is www.theempoweredempaths.com. That's plural, theempoweredempaths.com. They can find me on social media under Wanda Vitale. And I have a public group called the Empowered Empaths with pretty close to 700 people. You can join there. I really am here to support people in realizing their magic and helping everyone go for those big, silly, irrational dreams so that they can inspire everybody else to do the same.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a blast. I love hearing your observations and getting to know you a little bit more behind the person behind the content. That's what this is all about. So thank you so much. Always a joy to connect with you. We need to do it more often.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Shelley. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.